These fish are swimming in what may be the world's most luxurious pond. The coronavirus pandemic has kept tourists away from India's southern state of Kerala for months, and the owners of this 5-star beach resort are trying to keep their business afloat by turning their swimming pool into a fish farm.
By mid of March, we had to shut down the resort because of this COVID pandemic. There was no tourist arrivals, and later by 24th of March, there was a lockdown imposed. So then under these circumstances, we came to know that it will take a long time for normalcy to return back, and to keep ourselves busy and sustain ourselves, we had to think of some different ideas of how to keep ourselves engaged.
Government-enforced lockdowns lasted 68 days here and in many other parts of the country. That's hammered businesses, and the economy contracted by nearly 24% in the first quarter. Despite these restrictions, the number of COVID-19 cases has kept climbing, with 79,500 new infections reported on Sunday alone. Experts blame the spiraling outbreaks on the lack of social distancing and other safety precautions.
That people thought that once the numbers started to go down, this was it. They had won the war, and everybody was out, and everybody was out there without wearing a mask, without any social distancing, without any sanitizers. Basically, just gay abandon. Everybody thought that everything is over and we are back to square one. That is something that we should not have allowed to have happened.
Yet the government is further easing restrictions on people and businesses to boost economic growth. From September the 1st, all non-essential businesses will be allowed to reopen. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi is betting on the agriculture sector.
In these difficult times, farmers have proven their strength. This year, in our country, 10% more paddy has been sown compared to last year. Pulses are 5% higher, oats and cereals around 3%, oilseeds around 13%, and 3% more cotton has been sown.
But many of India's farmlands have been hit by floods that could destroy crops worth billions of dollars. And scientists say the same regions account for a large chunk of new infections.
The pandemic is spreading in the rural area. It is mainly affecting the 7 states of this country, which is responsible for almost 75% of the cases.
Employing more than half of the country's workforce, agriculture is considered the backbone of the economy. And the impact of the pandemic and natural disasters on India's farms could worsen the plight of millions of people who are already struggling to survive. Mobin, Nasir, TRT World.
Well, for more on this, TRT World's senior business producer Mobin Nasir joins us now from Istanbul. Great to have you here, Mobin. Now, the slump in the Indian economy was worse than what many analysts had expected, and one of the most severe of any nation during this crisis. Which areas were the hardest hit?
Oscar, we've been reporting on this for many weeks now. Of course, we've seen the devastation across the auto sector, across aviation. A report on tourism and transport, which was out last month, saying 38 million jobs at risk of being lost in tourism and transport and hospitality sector. And then, of course, there's the micro and small and medium enterprises that have been really hard hit, especially because of the exodus of migrant workers from the larger cities back into the smaller towns and villages that they come from. So really a very long list of industries, perhaps worsened by this very long ban or lockdown, should I say, on non-essential industries.
Yes, now there was a lot of fanfare, as we know, in May when the Indian government announced a huge stimulus package equivalent to around 10% of the country's GDP in order to boost the economy during this pandemic. But these latest GDP figures suggest that perhaps those measures haven't had the desired effect, have they?
Yes, in fact, the plan when it was announced was 10% of GDP, as you mentioned. But now different analyses saying that the extra government spending that will be seen through the end of this calendar year will likely be closer to the vicinity of 1% of GDP. The other, of course, impact here is that until many of those industries are allowed to reopen, as we expect them to from tomorrow, there cannot be much spending, of course, because their shops are simply not open and customers won't have access to them. Also, because of these lockdowns, many of the festivals, remember, India is a country where there are many festivals, many seasons that are celebrated, and those drive much of the spending patterns throughout the year. And because of lockdowns, many of those events have had to be cancelled. And so we haven't really seen the impact of government spending or private spending coming through, at least in the first quarter.
Now, as you reported in your story, the Indian government is really looking to push ahead with the reopening of its economy. So what can we expect from this current quarter then? Is the worst over for India?
It's difficult to say how much more the impact of the pandemic will be. Of course, there are many commentaries saying that the worst is in fact over. What that would mean, though, is that as things stand, the GDP would be expected to contract by about 10% for this year. Also, what we've seen is a very devastating spell of monsoon rains, about 25% more rain than is usually seen in the country. In fact, they haven't had this much rain or flooding in 44 years. So the impact of that may also sort of exacerbate the situation. But as far as the spread of the pandemic and its economic toll is concerned, at least as the nationwide lockdown is lifted, perhaps more businesses can get back to work.
Okay, Mobin, Nasir, thank you so much again for joining us on the program.